Oh my gosh, it's my first story time. Am I gonna say that for every video? It's my first this, it's my first that. I don't know, maybe. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. Today it's a rainy day in NYC, which is perfect because it feels like it's always a rainy day in NYC. And this video is going to be about how I moved from Miami, Florida to New York City and how I've been transitioning and how I feel about it. So let's get into it. So first of all, why did I move to New York? I had finished my undergrad at FIU in Miami, and I decided that I needed a change, and my boyfriend was already living here and he was going to the new school, and we just decided that it'd be really awesome if I moved up here, and we decided we would live together for the first time because we'd been doing long distance for a while. And we had met at a community college in Miami, and then he decided for his undergrad he was going to come here because he always wanted to come to New York and see what it had to offer, because he's a jazz drummer and you know all the gigs are going to be in New York. But I wasn't sure. However, I did want to change, and this has been a big change, but I'm finally getting used to it, I think, now after 2 years, because I moved here in 2019 and I was only here about 6 months before the pandemic hit. So that was a lot of fun, and we'll get into that. So my boyfriend had moved here already, and now it was my turn, and so we were both going through learning how to live together because, like I said, we did long distance. But I, on top of that, was also getting used to living in a new state, which was in itself just a little bit of a hurdle because New York is very different than Miami in many ways. First of all, of course, there is the weather. In New York, you have seasons. In Miami, you really don't. You have hot and humid pretty much all the time. If there's ever a type of cold front, everyone's just like bundled up in their jackets and doesn't know what to do. Or some people like really love it because it's never cold there ever. But it's just funny because I remember having plants in Miami. Down there, of course, they're used to the hot and humid climate. And then I tried growing some of the same plants here, and they were not having it necessarily. So I had to find ways to keep them alive or just transition to different plants that didn't mind the temperature change. But that was really funny when I was trying to grow the same plants. It wasn't working out. But yeah, here there's seasons. It's really cool because, of course, you have fall and winter. We're going through winter right now, which it's getting pretty cold. I think on Tuesday it's supposed to be like 10 degrees. I've learned to live with that. I mean, coming from everything being so hot, I didn't think I was going to do a good job, but I found that layering is your friend, and I've found some like really good coats and everything, and I kind of enjoy it sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I hadn't seen snow before I moved here. I came to visit my boyfriend once, and he was like walking me around, and there were like little flurries that were happening, but it wasn't covering the ground at all, so I didn't really get to see snow. And my first winter here, I didn't see snow either. I saw it my second winter, which was last year, and there were like 2 blizzards, so it all came on full force, but it was really cool. Finally got to like make a snowball and do like a snow angel and everything, which I enjoyed a lot. So I like the snow, it's pretty cool. And then of course, like I said, fall is really great because you're not cold yet and you're just kind of like transitioning from the really hot summers, because the summers can be like sweltering here. And of course you have spring, which is really nice because it's kind of getting out of the freezing cold and getting back into more manageable temperature. And of course all the flowers are coming back out, which is always nice to see. And it's just really interesting because you don't get to see that in Miami. You don't get to see how the earth changes, and it's just something that I've really enjoyed here, even though having to deal with the winter hasn't been as fun. But I still find joy in it, which I think is the important thing. So it's gonna be all right. And of course, with the seasons comes all the seasonal holiday kind of fun stuff as well. Like Christmas in New York is really nice because there's just something about all the lights everywhere, and New York kind of goes through a little bit of a change. It's still hustle and bustle, especially when people are out trying to get presents and everything. It's crazy, it can be madness, but there's just something, you know how everyone says it's magical at Christmas time? It's true. I mean, I think it has something to do with the snow, but it's just really nice to be here and everyone's in a little bit better of a mood. It's just really nice, and you get to have like the hot cocoa, and you get to kind of stay in and watch movies and just be with your loved ones, and that's really nice too. Speaking of drinks, but my favorite thing in the holiday season in New York is the holiday markets. I have so much fun at these markets. There's one in Union Square and there's one in Bryant Park. And it's just people that have their own little business, or they have their handmade items that they're selling. Or it's also like bigger businesses or companies that want to sell there too, because everyone goes to them and it's just really fun. It's a great place to find a Christmas gift or a holiday gift for your loved one, or just a friend or something. They've just got a crazy selection, and it's just like the coolest thing for me because I like walking around, just seeing everybody, and just the food is really good too. So it's just a little bit of an adventure for me, and I have a good time every single time that I go. So holidays are great and everything in New York too. But then it's always nice to see a little bit of a transition when you have the new year and then it's getting a little warmer, and that's always nice because you see everyone coming out of their apartments and they're just like, it's kind of like, can we come out now? Like, is it not cold anymore? And you see people like shedding layers, like suddenly people are in shorts again, and you're just like, okay, it's time. It's time. We're shifting. And it's just really interesting to see because everyone just has their own way of dealing with it, and it's kind of funny because everyone is just ready to go into the next season because they're tired of this season, so they want to go to the next one so that it's over and they can start again. Even though that kind of time of the year can be nice, I still, miss home. It's not that I'm homesick, but I miss being there only because you want to be with family, or at least I do, and I have a good time being with them, and home for the holidays and everything. I want to be with my mom and I want to just see everybody, and that's kind of a segue into the next thing, is how I've been living without my mom. Living without my mom has been really weird. I mean, when you're living at home, she's always there, and if you need anything, she's there to get it for you. I didn't ask everything from my mom, but living at home, it was just implied because my mom is like that. She kind of just gives us the world, and when you're younger, you just accept it. You're like, okay, yeah. And then it's just funny to see when you move out how the mindset changes. Because now you have to be like, oh yeah, I have to buy my own groceries, and I have to pay my own bills. And that was the nice thing about living at home, was she didn't make us pay any type of rent to her, even as we were getting older. Because I moved out when I was 25, 24, 25, 25. Yeah. And so to me, that was a little bit like, everyone thinks their life is going to go a certain way, but then you realize a lot of things happen and you have to learn how to make money and provide for yourself, and you don't always get to move out at the time that you were hoping to. So I was really blessed that I got to move up here and live with my boyfriend, so we get to split the rent. And now we're trying to figure that out because we're going to be moving into a new apartment hopefully around August, and we're going to have to figure out how to pay both halves of that rent for the entire apartment, because right now we still live with roommates. And that's another thing I'm going to get into as well, is learning to live with roommates. But, you know, the independence is really great, not having to live under a parental thumb, which in my case, my parents are great, and I'm extremely lucky and fortunate that I got to live with them for so long. But it was something inside of me that I just thought, I want to move out, I need to experience different things. And my mom was really sad about that. However, I think she's happy. I think she sees me growing, and that lets her know that I'm doing okay, and I think she's happy for me. My stepdad, he definitely is like happy for me. He's like, go, get out, you guys need to explore the world, go do whatever you want. And he's learning that right now because my stepsister just moved out. She technically moved out before me, but then she kind of came back, and now she's moving to Chicago. She's already in Chicago, and I think he's feeling it a little bit. But my mom will just give him some pointers about, you know, having to deal with them leaving the nest. But yeah, I think it's been great. I mean, thankfully, I still get to see her. I get to fly down and see my entire family usually, and that's really great. And I have to fly down for other things sometimes too. And I'm just, like I said, really fortunate that I get to do that. But I still like having the independence of living here and being on my own. And I like having to figure out things for myself, because that's how it's going to be going forward. And I just need to make sure that I can do things by myself and get comfortable with that, comfortable with the change. Because as we all know, there's a lot of change happening right now. So we just got to deal with it. I do end up missing my family a lot, but I also get really excited when they come to visit me, because I'm like, let's go around, let's like do tours, let's do this. And of course, that's another great thing about New York is a city that never sleeps, and you get to go to all these amazing sites, and people, you know, I feel like a lot of people hear about these things all the time, but then seeing them in person is really cool. And I kind of like taking people to go to like my favorite place to eat, or to go to another location that's maybe not as well known, but it's still really cool. And they kind of get to see a different side of New York, which is awesome because there's so many hidden gems in New York, and it's always constantly changing and new things are emerging. And that's just really the fun part about living here, is there's always something to do, there's always a new thing happening, and there's just always, it's always on the rise. And that's really cool, and you kind of have to be going along with that, which is really great because New York kind of shapes you to keep going. I mean, there's so many people here that just like life completely knocks you down, and then you just have to learn to get back up and keep going and be independent and be determined. And I think that's why everyone says that you have to be hardcore to live in New York, because if you don't keep moving, other people are, and they're just going to go right past you, and you're going to be stuck, and no one wants that. You want to keep growing, you want to keep going on, and you want to make sure that you're getting the best out of where you live. And so that's kind of something that was interesting about COVID, was that I was here about 6 months and I was working at the Strand. And then when COVID hit in March is when they kind of let everybody go. And it was scary because you were thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to pay bills before they, you know, did a thing where you didn't necessarily have to, depending on what you were doing. But it's like I have all these finances I have to provide for myself. And people were really scared because in New York, the rent is so high, and of course, everyone says, oh, it's just a place for you to sleep. Your apartment's just there. You're going to be out. You're going to be doing everything. But then when COVID hits, everyone was inside, and it was just kind of like, you know, you're in these walls and just going a little stir crazy. And a lot of people from New York, I realized they moved back to their hometowns during COVID. And Chris and I, we stayed here. And we just kind of held out until it was getting a bit better. And then it was really interesting to see the life kind of go stagnant in New York. And then, of course, when people started coming back, it just started growing again, like the hub that it is. And it was just crazy because trying to get so many people on board, because so many people do live in New York, and having them wear masks and do protocols and everything, it was just interesting to see, because New York went through a really big change from, having so many people in Times Square to basically nobody. Was kind of shocking, especially to a lot of New Yorkers that had lived here for a while. However, like I said, New Yorkers are really strong, and they were able to persevere through COVID, which was great. And we got through the quarantine, and now the life of New York is back, as you can hear with the honking going on outside. I live on Broadway, so there's just a lot going on all the time. Like I said, never sleeps, never stops. But living in New York, I kind of realized that COVID was a good thing for some people. I know it was for me, because I decided that I wanted to start my Etsy, and that I kind of wanted to find other streams of income, because when your one thing is taken away of how you make money, it's really scary. And so if you have multiple streams of income, in my eyes, you're doing just a little bit better, because you have that extra help. And if you lose one thing, you have other things to support you. And that was something I started to get really interested in, and I thought that Etsy would be really great. It was also something for me just to be doing anything, like something substantial or worthwhile in my eyes, because there were so many days where we would just sit there, or we would watch TV, or we would try to make some food and like be creative, but I needed a different outlet. And so I started just deciding that I would make an Etsy, and I would make things, and that would be really fun for me. And then eventually I started thinking, I can make a YouTube channel. That'd be really fun. And like I said, it is a passion project. If it turns into anything else as time goes on, that would be really amazing too. But for right now, it's just another outlet where I can just be myself and be creative, and that's really all I want. I do believe that some goodness came out of having to quarantine because of COVID, and it really taught me that I need to just be on the ball and be determined, because I was out of a job for at least, it was a while. I mean, I had some jobs during that time, and none of them were doing well because of COVID. Either people were leaving because conditions weren't good, or people just couldn't hire employees and keep them on. That's something that happened to me, which sucks, because I mean, I would like to work for these businesses if it had better protocols put in place. But it just kind of showed me that I need to be doing my own thing and actually be going after things I want to do, because during COVID, you don't want to be working at something that you hate. Even though you have to make bills. I mean, you do have to pay bills and make money, but I thought if I'm able to do something that I care about during this time, that would be great. So that's when I kind of narrowed my search down with the jobs that I was choosing. I know I shouldn't have been choosy at this time. I was just trying to get anything, but I was sending emails left and right and looking on all the job sites, and nothing was coming through. This was after I had some jobs during like the quarantine type time. And I went for about 5 months with absolutely no luck. And then finally, I got the job that I have now, which is at a veterinary emergency type place. And I really like it, but I don't know if I'm gonna like talk about it on here necessarily, because I kind of keep the two worlds separate, just for now, because it's not necessarily what I want to be doing forever. I'd rather be doing a type of like creative content deal. But I'm very lucky to have them right now. I'm very fortunate that they decided to take me on, and being able to work with animals is really cool too. Even some days if I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. and go, I just have to remind myself that I'm in a good place right now, I'm safe, and I can pay my bills because of this, so I'm not going to do anything to ruin it. And if a time comes when I'm able to be making more, doing what I love, creating, and any type of entrepreneurship, then I might not have to go to this job anymore, but that's a long time coming. So right now I just really appreciate them a lot, and we'll see what happens in the future. Now, like I said, I do live with roommates. So my boyfriend and I, we share a room, and then we have 3 other roommates. So there's 5 of us, and a cat and a lizard. They're all musicians. I kind of think I'm more artist musician type, but I can play, and but they're all jazz musicians. So we have the drummer, which is my boyfriend, and then we have a singer, and then we have a bassist and another person that plays woodwind instruments, and it's just kind of a jack of all trades, which is really cool. So we have sessions going on here all the time in our living room. That's why I'm sitting at a drum set right now. So it's just really cool because they're getting gigs all the time and you get to go see them performing, doing what they love. And, there was a time, obviously, COVID, when none of that was happening. And so everyone was kind of freaking out here, even though we weren't living together just yet until like at the height of COVID. We all started living together when it was established and different things were going on. But at the height of it, they were in another apartment and they were going through it and trying to figure out what they were going to do. And the same thing, everyone had to find a means of income. And it was just really a tough time. But now, like I said, New York is kind of back in a sense, and the gigs are happening, and we're just having a really good time. That's what I personally live with my type of roommates. But also going from living just at home, even though I had siblings, going from living with them and just in your own kind of space and all of a sudden sharing a room and sharing a communal space has been really interesting, because I had some roommates as well, because we lived in Brooklyn first, especially at the height of COVID, and now we're living in Harlem. So dealing with different types of roommates is just something you learn how to manage, and the biggest thing is communication. As long as you're openly communicating with them and letting them know, hey, we should do this, we shouldn't do that, it should be okay. Of course, there's going to be times where, someone needs to use this communal space or that communal space. But what's really nice is all of them at first were Chris's friends, and now I feel like we're all friends. And it's just really nice because we all get along really well together, and we haven't had any fights or anything, which is great. And Chris and I, we want to move out in August only because we think it's time, and we kind of want to live on our own and see how we can do that. And it's going to be really fun, and I think it's going to be what's best for us right now. At my job, things have been a little bit slower. I don't even want to say that because it's been so busy, and at my job, we are not allowed to say that phrase oh, it's been slow today, because as soon as you do, since it's an emergency center, it just gets packed all of a sudden. I've seen it change in 5 minutes from maybe one person there to 7. And all of a sudden you're backed up and you only have one doctor, and it's just, I can get into my job and make some other video if anyone would want to see that, but it's just crazy. But anyway, we had a bit of a slower time. I'm allowed to say it because I'm not at work. And so I started looking at apartments, and just trying to figure out where it would be best for us and what we can afford, and just going over it with him, sending him pictures constantly, look at this one, look at this one. And then that's another thing too is I just thought of it, is going from living in Miami and driving and going somewhere, parking, even just going to the grocery store. Drive to the grocery store, get your groceries, put it in the car, and go home, right? But here in New York, it's so much easier to just take the subway. I mean, Chris wants to try to get a car in the summer, and we'll see if that happens, but I'm really scared of driving in New York, even though Miami driving is awful. But here in New York, it's just even crazier because there's just so much going on. And you have experienced drivers that just know every direction to go, and they're going really fast, and it's scary. I've only done it once. It's just so much easier to take the subway because the public transportation here is a lot better in my opinion. But it's just crazy going from driving and coming here, and then people say, oh yeah, I got my license today, and they're 28, and you're just what? I thought you because I come from a place where everyone gets their license when they're younger, because they need to start driving. That's the best way to get around, because Miami transportation, it's not that great. I mean, the bus I guess is okay, but it's just not, it's nothing compared to New York, because New York's just worked out a system that just works so much better. Even though people here still complain about the train, but once you've been from one place that doesn't have anything like that to here, you kind of realize like, this is fine. I also like that I can kind of, if I'm going somewhere really far on the train, I can just like take a book or something and read it. I mean, you gotta like look out for people on the train sometimes, because not everyone's your friend. But if you have like a long way to go, you can just read, or you can get a lot done on the train, which is kind of nice. And it really only has, if it rains a lot, it can delay the trains, and then, or if there's like a lot of snow or something. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, just going over all that stuff, the atmosphere of New York, the transportation, the food. The food is great. I never realized that ramen was my favorite food until I moved here, and I will say that it is, because there's just so many good places. There's a place down the street that we've been going to constantly, and they just have some really good food. And of course, you know, everything's a bit pricier in New York, and especially when you get into the food aspect of it, things can be really pricey, but usually it's really worth it. I mean, you can have like $1 pizza, or you could go to like a 5-star restaurant, which is always really cool, and you kind of get used to the differences, and like going to the deli at like 1 a.m. because you want a snack, and it's just conveniently right below you and right across the street from you, and you kind of get used to that. The same thing with like laundromats, because we have one just right down the street in the other direction. I went from being at home and having the washer and dryer readily available to me to coming here, and I was so lucky. In Brooklyn, I had it in unit, like in the apartment, and then we moved here and we don't have it in unit, we don't have it in the building, but there is one literally right across from us, and then there's one down the street. We go to the other one because it's cheaper. And those are the kind of things that you learn to deal with when you move here, like which one's cheaper, and then, you know, dealing with the spacing issues of the apartment, and you realize that you can't have like dish, like, you know, things like that. So I was gonna say dishwasher, I meant washer and dryer. Some places don't have dishwashers either. Thankfully ours does right now, but I'm hoping that the next apartment I can have a washer and dryer. That's kind of all I want. And not like a 19-floor walk-up. That'd be good too. But yeah, there's always room for growth, and it's kind of the land of opportunity here in New York, just because, like I said, things are always happening. You never know who you're gonna meet. I haven't necessarily met like many celebrities, but it's just really interesting because you could go somewhere and meet someone, and that can lead you to a really great opportunity. You just never know. And that's kind of also why I like being a social butterfly, because all my friends also are back in Miami, so I've had to meet new friends here, and it's just not as easy because, like I said, people like to stay inside, or like whenever they go out, they're just like, you know, going to their destination, doing what they gotta do. But no, you gotta have friends here, and you gotta like make a life for yourself. So any opportunity that arises, I'm gonna take it, because that's just what's gonna get me closer and closer to, you know, my happiness, like my happiness level that I want to be at. You know, if you move somewhere, it can really feel daunting at first, but also it can take a long time for you to get settled in. And I feel like the more people you meet that kind of have your same vibe and like doing the same things as you, it's really going to help in the long run. And it's going to help at that moment because it's something that's familiar to you. And it doesn't even have to be a person. It could be just finding something that you really resonate with, and that can help get you through that weird period. Because I kind of feel like I'm past that now, and now I'm just ready to see exactly what New York has to offer. Now that it's kind of back up and running and everyone's just trying to do their best, I'm also trying to do the same thing. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully I can get the most out of living here. I don't know if we're going to be living here forever, but right now it's just been really great. I mean, this is what I keep telling my mom. She's like, "Are you going to live there forever?" And I say, we're living here now because it is the best spot for us for any opportunity that comes our way. It's the best place to find what you're looking for. in our humble opinion, because, you know, there's so much going on here, and it's been a blast. I've now officially run out of my natural light because, like I said, it's rainy and it's almost 4 o'clock. That's one thing that's really annoying, is that it just gets so dark during daylight savings time up here. It gets dark at like 4. And that's kind of hard to deal with, especially someone that loves the light. I've had to deal with that. It's getting towards that time now, and I'm running out of my natural light, so I'm probably gonna say goodbye. But yeah, if you guys have any questions for me, that'd be like so much fun. I would love to answer them. If you want to go ahead and leave a comment, because I always think it's really interesting to hear about other people's lives in other states. So I love commenting on people's videos and being like, how's this like, what's this, and knowing how that transition is. But if you have any questions, just leave them below and I will be answering everyone's question. So thanks, you guys, and I think I'm gonna go and get food. I hear a roommate. They probably need to come in here for something. But yeah, I'm gonna head out, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. I got a lot of love on my last video since I'm just starting out, but you know, it's just kind of like propelling me forward and kind of encouraging me. So please leave a like on this video if you did like it, and then leave a comment if you want to talk some more, and I will be seeing you in my next video. All right, bye. Hi. Yeah. Give me 2 seconds. Bye. It was Chris.